As Saudi Arabia officially halted travel to the sacred Islamic sites of Mecca and Medina amidst a global coronavirus outbreak, eerie videos of an empty Kaaba have gone viral on social media. The sight of a deserted Kaaba has left many in disbelief. The Kaaba in Mecca has been officially closed. This brings to mind the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad, known for his accurate predictions. The Kaaba, a revered site of the Islamic faith that attracts millions of tourists and worshippers each year, now faces a drastically different reality. What led to the closure of the Kaaba? Has Prophet Muhammad's prophecy truly come to pass? In this video, we will unveil the answers to these questions and revisit past instances when the Kaaba was shut down, leaving everyone in shock. Prophet Muhammad's prophecy that everything will come to an end, including the Kaaba in Mecca, seems to have materialized. After years of flash floods, insect infestations, and attacks threatening to destroy the Kaaba, it appears this time the closure might be permanent. Prophet Muhammad frequently taught that nothing lasts forever. It seems the beginning of the end is starting with the holy Kaaba. Do you think this is happening? Before we delve into the details, what do you know about the Kaaba and its significance? The Kaaba has been a special place for Muslims for decades. It's located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, in the center of the Great Mosque. For Muslims, it's the holiest place on earth. Whenever Muslims pray, they face this small shrine. Even when they bury their loved ones, they make sure they meet the direction of the Kaaba. And many Muslims dream of one day visiting it for the pilgrimage called Hajj, as commanded in the Quran. This structure is shaped like a big cube, which is why it's called the Kaaba, which means cube in Arabic. It's about 50 feet high and the base is around 35 by 40 feet. Made of gray stone and marble, it's positioned so its corners point towards the compass directions. Inside, there's not much, just 3 pillars holding up the roof and some silver and gold lamps hanging from the ceiling. Usually the Kaaba is covered in a huge black cloth made of brocade called the kiswa. This cloth is put on and taken off each year during the pilgrimage. It's a symbol of respect and honor for this sacred place. For Muslims, the Kaaba is more than just a building. It symbolizes their faith and unity. It's a place where they feel close to Allah and connected to their fellow believers worldwide. Visiting the Kaaba is a dream come true for many Muslims, and it's a journey filled with spiritual meaning. The Kaaba holds a special place in Islamic history and tradition. It's a reminder of the Prophet Muhammad's teachings and the importance of prayer and devotion in Islam. For Muslims, the Kaaba is a symbol of their faith and a source of strength and inspiration. It's a place where they can unite as a community and reaffirm their commitment to Allah. In the eastern corner of the Kaaba lies the black stone, known as Al-Hajar al-Aswad. It's surrounded by a stone ring and held together by a heavy silver band. According to tradition, this stone has an interesting history. It's said that the stone was given to Adam after he was expelled from paradise to seek forgiveness for his sins. Legend has it that the stone was originally white, but turned black over time as it absorbed the sins of countless pilgrims who kissed and touched it. Because embedded in the eastern corner of the shrine is perhaps the most sacred stone in all the world, the Black Stone of Mecca. For Muslims performing the Hajj or Umrah pilgrimage, walking around the Kaaba counterclockwise 7 times is a crucial ritual known as tawaf. During this ritual, pilgrims are encouraged to touch or kiss the black stone if possible. But it's important to note that this act is not mandatory. It's a symbol of spiritual significance, representing the connection between humanity and the divine. That's not all. The black stone has a deep symbolic meaning for Muslims around the world. It's a core reminder of Adam's repentance and the forgiveness of sins. For pilgrims, touching or kissing the black stone during the tawaf ritual is a way to connect with the sacred history of Islam and seek blessings for themselves and their loved ones. It's a moment of reverence and devotion, a physical expression of faith and submission to the will of Allah. Despite its broken pieces and darkened appearance, the black stone is still a special point of spiritual devotion for Muslims worldwide. It's a symbol of unity, representing the shared faith and heritage of the Islamic community. Whether pilgrims choose to touch or kiss it during their tawaf ritual, the black stone is a powerful reminder of the eternal bond between humanity and the divine. Every year the kiswa, the cloth covering the Kaaba, changes. This tradition started in 2022 on the first day of the Islamic month of Muharram, which marks the beginning of the new year on the Hijri calendar. It's a big deal because it symbolizes a fresh start for the Kaaba and the Muslim community. During Muharram, there's also a special ceremony where the Kaaba gets washed. This ritual has been going on for some time now and is usually led by a representative of the Saudi government. They use perfume and water from the sacred well of Zamzam, which is nearby. It's a way to purify and honor the Kaaba, preparing it for another year of pilgrimage and worship. The early history of the Kaaba is a bit mysterious. We don't know a lot about it, but we do know that before Islam, it was a sanctuary for polytheistic worship. People from all over the Arabian Peninsula would come here on pilgrimage. According to the Quran, Abraham and Ishmael were important characters in the Kaaba's history. It says they raised the foundations of the Kaaba, but what exactly that means is up for interpretation. Many Muslims believe that Abraham and Ishmael rebuilt a shrine that Adam first built. They thought that only the foundations of the original structure were left, and Abraham and Ishmael reconstructed it. It's a story passed down through generations and is an important part of Islamic history and belief. Did you know the Kaaba has a long history of destruction, damage, and rebuilding? Over the centuries, it has faced various challenges, including attacks and conflicts. One notable event occurred in 930 when the Black Stone, a revered relic housed in the Kaaba, was taken by an extreme Shi'i sect called the Karmatians. They held it for almost 20 years, demanding ransom. This incident caused significant distress among Muslims, highlighting the vulnerability of the Kaaba. During Muhammad's early ministry, the Kaaba served as the Qibla, the direction of prayer for the Muslim community. However, after the Muslim migration to Medina, the Qibla briefly shifted to Jerusalem before returning to the Kaaba. This transition reflects the evolving dynamics of Islam during Muhammad's lifetime and the importance of the Kaaba in Islamic worship. When Muhammad's forces conquered Mecca in 630, he took decisive action regarding the Kaaba. He ordered the destruction of the pagan idols housed in the shrine and cleansed it of all signs of polytheism. Despite facing destruction and challenges throughout history, the Kaaba remains a symbol of unity and devotion for Muslims worldwide. Its significance in Islamic faith and practice cannot be overstated, as it attracts millions of pilgrims each year during the Hajj pilgrimage. The resilience of the Kaaba shows the enduring strength of the Islamic faith and the unwavering devotion of believers. What are other times in the past when the Kaaba in Mecca was shut down? In the year 570 AD, a Yemeni governor named Abraha decided to build a cathedral in the city of Sana'a. He wanted to make it a new center for pilgrimage, a place where people could come to worship. But Abraha soon realized that the Kaaba, located in Mecca, was already a holy place for pilgrims from all over. Realizing this, Abraha came up with a drastic plan. He organized a major military expedition to destroy Mecca. His goal was to divert pilgrims from Mecca to his cathedral in Sana'a, making Yemen the only destination for pilgrimage. This decision would have changed the course of history for Mecca and the Islamic world. It gets interesting. Abraha's invasion campaign began in 570 AD, just a year before the birth of Prophet Muhammad. He led a large army, reportedly aided by an elephant. As they approached Mecca, their intention was clear: to conquer the holy city and establish Abraha's dominance over the region. But when they reached close to the Kaaba, something unexpected happened. The elephant, supposed to lead the charge, refused to move further. This unexpected turn of events confused Abraha and his army. Meanwhile, the residents of Mecca, caught off guard and unprepared for such an attack, fled to the mountains to seek refuge from the impending invasion. The people of Mecca, fearing the consequences of Abraha's aggression, could not perform their pilgrimage to the Kaaba that year. The sacred pilgrimage, a tradition for generations, was disrupted by the threat of war and destruction. But despite Abraha's military might, his forces encountered unexpected obstacles. According to several historians, divine intervention thwarted Abraha's plans. His army was struck by what could only be described as divine powers, which eventually led to the downfall of his expedition and the end of the siege on Mecca. This event, known as the Year of the Elephant, is forever remembered in Islamic history. It marks a turning point where the sacred city of Mecca was saved from destruction, allowing it to continue its role as a center of pilgrimage for generations to come. Then there was the Shiite attack. After the Shiite Karmatian state started attacking Mecca and its pilgrimage routes, fewer and fewer people came for the pilgrimage each year. These attacks caused chaos and danger, making it unsafe for pilgrims to travel to Mecca. Islamic scholars noticed this and decided to issue a fatwa, a religious ruling, in 930 AD. This fatwa banned the pilgrimage to Mecca because it was too risky for people's lives and property. The situation in Mecca became even worse in the same year when the leader of the Karmatians, Abu Tahir al-Janabi, launched a brutal raid on the city. During this raid, tens of thousands of pilgrims were massacred, adding to the fear and horror felt by people across the region. Historians say that the Karmatians imposed a ban on the pilgrimage for over a decade, further disrupting the spiritual lives of Muslims. To make matters worse, before the Karmatians left Mecca, they committed a sinful act by stealing the door of the Kaaba, the holiest site in Islam, and Hajar ul-Aswad, also known as the Black Stone. This stone has deep religious significance, believed to date back to the time of Adam and Eve. These stolen items remained in the hands of the Karmatians for 20 long years, causing anguish and anger among Muslims. Eventually, in 952, the Abbasid rulers decided to take action to recover these sacred items. Next, there were the epidemic outbreaks. In the 19th century, the Hejaz region in the Arabian Peninsula faced many outbreaks. Diseases like the plague, cholera, and meningitis spread fear and devastation among the people. One of the most popular outbreaks was the plague epidemic that struck the Hejaz region in 1814. This deadly disease caused the death of around 8,000 people, leading to the cancellation of the pilgrimage for that year. It was a tragic time for the region, as lives were lost and communities were devastated by the impact of the epidemic. The pilgrimage season in 1837 marked the beginning of another epidemic that would continue until 1892. During this period, the Hejaz region witnessed the loss of nearly 1,000 lives every day due to the highly fatal epidemic. The toll on human life was immense, and the people faced unimaginable suffering and hardship. Families mourned the loss of loved ones, and communities struggled to cope with the devastation brought by the epidemic. To combat the spread of the disease and provide medical assistance to the affected population, doctors from Egypt were sent to the Hejaz region. Their primary task was establishing a quarantine on the road to Mecca to monitor and care for people who were either infected or at risk of contracting the disease. This quarantine was a crucial measure in containing the epidemic and preventing further spread to other regions. The efforts of the doctors from Egypt were instrumental in providing medical care and support to the people of the Hejaz region during this challenging time. Despite the risks involved, they worked tirelessly to treat the sick and prevent the spread of the disease. Their dedication and commitment to saving lives helped alleviate some of the suffering caused by the epidemic. We can't forget to mention the Kaaba seizure. On November 20th, 1979, something shocking happened at the Kaaba during the morning prayer. A man named Juhayman al-Otaibi did something unexpected. He raised the Kaaba. On the morning of November 20th, 1979, up to 500 militants attacked the Grand Mosque al-Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Islam's holiest site. It was a big deal because touching it is a serious matter. But Juhayman had more than just a religious motive. He had political demands. Juhayman had some strong opinions about the Saudi regime and its relationships with Western countries. He wanted the Saudi government to be dismissed, and he wanted the kingdom to stop its connections with Western superpowers. He also demanded that Saudi Arabia stop selling oil to Western countries and close all foreign military bases. These were big demands, and he wasn't afraid to express them. The Saudi government didn't take Juhayman's actions lightly. The High Scholar Committee of the Kingdom issued a fatwa, which is a religious ruling, asking the Saudi regime to take action. They wanted the government to intervene and get rid of all the rebels who were involved in razing the Kaaba. It was a serious situation, and the government needed to act fast. The raid to rid the city of the rebels lasted for about 15 days. It was a tense and dangerous time, with clashes between the rebels and the Saudi soldiers. The situation was so severe that the Kaaba remained closed for 2 weeks during the raid. It was a significant disruption to the usual routines and practices of Muslims who visit the Kaaba. In the end, the raid only ended with the help of a specialist team from France. It took outside assistance to resolve the situation and end the chaos, but the toll was heavy. 127 Saudi soldiers, 117 of Juhayman's supporters, and 26 civilians were killed during the clashes. It was a tragic outcome that left many families grieving. Juhayman and his 62 followers paid the ultimate price for their actions. They were later executed for their role in the uprising. It was a harsh punishment, but the Saudi government wanted to send a strong message that actions like theirs would not be tolerated. The events of November 20th, 1979 were a dark moment in the history of the Kaaba and Saudi Arabia, reminding everyone of the importance of respecting sacred places and the consequences of political extremism. The next one happened before the most recent shutdown. What were other instances of the Kaaba getting shut down? What is another prophecy regarding the Kaaba that came true? In 2020, because people were really scared of the coronavirus, Saudi officials closed the Kaaba. Under the shadow of COVID-19, Islam's greatest pilgrimage is almost unrecognizable for the second year in a row. The doors were shut and nobody could go inside to pray. Saudi Arabia wanted to make sure the virus didn't end up spreading there. Dr. Yasser Qadi, a well-known Islam scholar, mentioned this on Twitter. He said the Kaaba was empty and people couldn't do the usual worship rituals like walking around it. It was a strange sight for many Muslims who are used to seeing the Kaaba full of worshippers. The decision to close the Kaaba happened because Saudi Arabia wanted to keep people safe. They didn't want the coronavirus to spread to their country, so they stopped foreigners and Saudi citizens from going to Mecca and Medina for pilgrimages. The Saudi government has a committee examining how to handle the coronavirus. Based on what this committee said, they decided to stop people from doing Umrah. Umrah is when people go to Mecca and Medina for special religious rituals. It's different from Hajj, which happens once a year and brings in millions of Muslims worldwide. Stopping Umrah was a big deal because it's something that people do throughout the year. It's a way for Muslims to show their devotion to their faith. But the government thought it was important to do this to keep everyone safe from the virus. The decision to close the Kaaba was part of a bigger effort to stop the coronavirus from spreading. The government wanted to make sure that everyone in Saudi Arabia, whether they were citizens or residents, stayed healthy. It was a tough decision, but they believed it was the right thing to do to protect people's lives. Even though it disappointed people who wanted to do Umrah, they understood why the government had to do it. Everyone was worried about the virus and tried to ensure they did everything they could to stop it. It was a difficult time for everyone, but people hoped that by taking these precautions, they could prevent more people from getting sick. Dr. Sami Angawi, a Saudi expert who knows a lot about Mecca and Medina, as well as the Hajj, a really important pilgrimage for Muslims, talked about the recent restrictions in Saudi Arabia. He said these restrictions were the most severe ones he's ever seen in his life, but he also said they weren't something new in the history of Islam, which goes back 400 years. Even though the restrictions were harsh, he thought they were a wise and brave decision to keep the heart of the Muslim world safe. Deputy Hajj Minister Abdul Fattah Mashat also spoke about the restrictions on a TV channel called Al Arabiya. He said that even though there were restrictions, Saudi nationals and people who live in Saudi Arabia could still go to Mecca and Medina to pray, as long as they weren't going there for Umrah, which is a minor pilgrimage compared to Hajj. He wanted people to know that Mecca was still open to visitors from around Saudi Arabia, but Umrah activities were temporarily suspended. Saudi Arabia then stopped giving out Umrah visas to foreigners and told people from Gulf countries not to visit Mecca and Medina because of the virus. They also didn't allow tourists from at least 25 countries where the virus spread. And to make sure the virus didn't spread more, they limited the number of travelers coming from other Gulf countries. These restrictions affected many people, especially those who wanted to visit Umrah or Mecca and Medina as tourists. But the government wanted to make sure everyone was safe. That's not the only prophecy Prophet Muhammad has made involving the Kaaba. Long ago, there was a particular direction that people faced when they prayed. This direction was called the Qibla. In the beginning, the Qibla was towards Jerusalem, a holy city. But then something amazing happened during the time of Prophet Muhammad, a very important person in Islamic tradition. Prophet Muhammad received a message from Allah, the one God worshipped by Muslims. This message was a revelation where God told him about a new direction for prayer. It said the Qibla should now be towards the Kaaba in Mecca, another sacred place. This was a big change because Jerusalem was very special to many people. But the new direction was important for Muslims. When Prophet Muhammad shared this message with his followers, they were surprised. They didn't know why the direction was changing, but they trusted Allah's wisdom. So they turned to face the Kaaba when they prayed, just as they were told. This act of obedience showed their faith and dedication to Allah. The shift of the Qibla from Jerusalem to the Kaaba was like a prophecy coming true. It was something foretold by Prophet Muhammad and then fulfilled later. This event was very significant for Muslims because it showed that Allah's words were valid and that Prophet Muhammad was indeed Allah's messenger. Facing the Kaaba during prayer became a symbol of unity for Muslims worldwide. No matter where they were, they all turned in the same direction, connecting them to the holy city of Mecca. This practice continues to shape Islamic devotion and worship to this day. Do you think the Kaaba will stay closed for long? Or did you see the closure coming? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share with everyone.